Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room, the kind where the air hums with polite conversation and the clinking of glasses. Someone approaches you, a friend, a colleague, maybe even a stranger, and they ask for a favor. It's not a small one either. It's the kind of request that will cost you time, energy, and maybe even a piece of your sanity. But you smile, nod, and say, "Of course." You don't hesitate, you don't ask questions, you don't even consider saying no. And as they walk away, relieved and grateful, you feel a strange mix of emotions. Pride, perhaps, for being so accommodating, but also a faint, gnawing resentment. You tell yourself it's nothing. You're just being nice. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Now imagine this. It's not the first time. In fact, it's not even the 10th. You've spent your life saying yes, smoothing over conflicts and putting others' needs before your own. You've been the reliable one, the agreeable one, the one who never makes waves. People like you. They trust you. They depend on you. But late at night, when the world is quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts, a question creeps into your mind, uninvited and unwelcome. What about me? It's a question you quickly push away. After all, isn't it selfish to think like that? Isn't it wrong to prioritize yourself over others? You've been taught by your family, your culture, and your society that kindness is a virtue, that selflessness is the highest form of morality. And yet, deep down, you can't shake the feeling that something is off, that the very thing you've been praised for, the very thing that defines you, might also be the thing that is slowly eroding you from the inside out. Here's the paradox. The world tells you to be kind, to be generous, to be selfless. And yet, the more you give, the more it takes. The more you bend, the more it demands. You've been told that being nice will bring you happiness, fulfillment, and connection. But what if it doesn't? What if instead it leaves you feeling invisible, unappreciated, and utterly alone? Think about it. How many times have you agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid conflict? How many times have you swallowed your true feelings, afraid of being seen as difficult or unkind? How many times have you put someone else's needs above your own, only to realize later that they never would have done the same for you? And how many times have you told yourself, "It's fine, it's no big deal, it's just who I am," only to feel a quiet, simmering anger that you can't quite explain? What if this isn't just a personal struggle, but a societal one? What if the very concept of niceness is a trap, a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you compliant, agreeable, and easy to control? What if the world doesn't actually value kindness, but rather the convenience of your silence? And what if, by being too nice, you're not just betraying yourself, but also enabling a system that thrives on your submission? These are uncomfortable questions, the kind that most people avoid asking, but they're also the kind that demand answers. Because the truth is, there's a hidden cost to being too nice, a cost that goes far beyond the occasional inconvenience or momentary frustration. It's a cost that seeps into every corner of your life, shaping your relationships, your identity, and even your sense of purpose. And the most deceptive part? You might not even realize it's happening. So let's go deeper. Let's unravel this paradox and examine it from every angle. Let's explore the psychological and philosophical roots of this hidden problem, the unseen consequences it creates, and the radical shifts in perspective that can set you free. But first, let's sit with this question for a moment. What if being too nice isn't a virtue at all? What if it's a form of self-betrayal? The answer might not be what you expect, but it's one you need to hear. Because until you confront this hidden truth, you'll remain trapped in a cycle of giving, pleasing, and sacrificing, never realizing that the very thing you thought was your strength might actually be your greatest weakness. And so the question remains, what about you? To understand the hidden cost of being too nice, we must first ask, why does this happen? Why do so many of us feel compelled to prioritize others at the expense of ourselves? Why do we equate kindness with self-sacrifice? And why does the world seem to reward this behavior, even as it quietly drains us of our vitality? The answer lies deep within the human psyche, shaped by centuries of cultural conditioning, philosophical ideals, and psychological mechanisms. At its core, the compulsion to be too nice is rooted in a fundamental fear, the fear of rejection. From the moment we are born, we are wired to seek connection and approval. As social creatures, our survival once depended on our ability to belong to a group. To be cast out was to face certain death. And while the world has changed, this primal fear remains embedded in our DNA. But it's not just biology at play. Society reinforces this fear in subtle and deceptive ways. From a young age, we are taught that our worth is tied to how well we meet the expectations of others. Be a good boy. Be a nice girl. Don't make a fuss. These phrases, repeated over and over, become the foundation of our identity. We learn that love and acceptance are conditional, that they must be earned through compliance and selflessness. And so, we begin to suppress our true selves, trading authenticity for approval. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst, called this the creation of the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. The persona is not inherently bad. It allows us to function in society. But when we over-identify with it, when we mistake the mask for our true self, we lose touch with who we really are. We become trapped in what Jung called the shadow, the repressed parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable. And for those who are too nice, the shadow often contains anger, resentment, and a deep yearning for autonomy, emotions that are buried so deeply they become almost unrecognizable. Philosophers, too, have grappled with this tension between self and society. Friedrich Nietzsche warned against the dangers of what he called slave morality, a system of values that glorifies meekness, humility, and self-denial. According to Nietzsche, this morality was born out of resentment, an attempt by the powerless to control the powerful by labeling strength and individuality as evil. Over time, this mindset became ingrained in Western culture, teaching us to equate virtue with self-sacrifice and to view assertiveness as selfishness. But Nietzsche also offered a way out. He spoke of the Übermensch, or overman, an individual who transcends societal norms and creates their own values. The Übermensch is not bound by the expectations of others. They are guided by their own inner compass. And while this idea may seem radical, it holds a profound truth. To live authentically, we must be willing to disappoint others. We must be willing to say no. Yet saying no is easier said than done. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote extensively about the human need for meaning. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl argued that we find purpose not in avoiding conflict or pleasing others, but in taking responsibility for our own lives. He believed that true fulfillment comes from aligning our actions with our values, even if it means going against the grain. But for those who are too nice, this alignment is often elusive. They are so focused on meeting external expectations that they lose sight of their inner truth. This disconnection from the self has profound psychological consequences. When we suppress our true feelings and desires, we create a gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. This gap, over time, becomes a source of chronic stress and anxiety. We may not even realize it, but our bodies do. Studies have shown that people who struggle to assert themselves are more likely to experience physical symptoms, such as headaches, fatigue, and digestive issues. The body, it seems, keeps score. And then there's the emotional toll. When we prioritize others at the expense of ourselves, we often feel unappreciated and taken for granted. But here's the cruel irony. The very people we seek to please may not even value our efforts. Why? Because niceness, when given unconditionally, is often seen as weakness. It's a harsh truth, but one worth confronting. People respect boundaries, not endless accommodation. This brings us to a deeper philosophical question. What is the purpose of kindness? Is it to make others happy, or is it to create genuine connection? True kindness, after all, is not about self-sacrifice. It's about empathy, understanding, and mutual respect. But when kindness becomes a compulsion, when it's driven by fear rather than love, it ceases to be kindness at all. It becomes a form of self-erasure. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, once described life as a pendulum swinging between pain and boredom. For those who are too nice, this pendulum often swings between resentment and exhaustion. They give and give, hoping to find meaning in their selflessness, only to feel empty and unfulfilled. And yet they continue the cycle, unable to break free from the belief that their worth is tied to their ability to please. But what if this belief is a lie? What if the very foundation of niceness is built on a flawed premise? What if, by trying to be everything to everyone, we end up being nothing to ourselves? These are the questions we must confront if we are to understand the hidden problem of being too nice. It is not just a psychological issue, but a philosophical one, a question of identity, purpose, and the nature of human connection. And as we delve deeper, we will uncover the unseen consequences of this hidden force, the consequences that shape not only our personal lives, but also the world around us. For now, let us sit with this thought. What if the greatest act of kindness is not to others, but to ourselves? What if by reclaiming our authenticity, we can create a new kind of connection, one that is rooted not in fear, but in truth? The answer lies ahead, waiting to be discovered. But first, we must face the consequences of the path we've been walking. And they are far more profound than we might imagine. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the life you've built, the relationships, the career, the identity you've carefully crafted, isn't truly yours. It's a patchwork of other people's expectations, sewn together by your relentless need to be liked, to be accepted, to be nice. You've spent years saying yes when you wanted to say no, smiling when you wanted to scream, and bending when you should have stood firm. And now, as you look around, you can't help but wonder, how did I get here? This is the silent tragedy of being too nice. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not a dramatic collapse, but a slow erosion, a gradual loss of self that goes unnoticed until it's too late. And the consequences of this erosion are far-reaching, affecting every aspect of your life in ways you might not even realize. The first and most devastating consequence of being too nice is the loss of your identity. When you spend your life prioritizing others, you begin to lose touch with who you are. Your likes and dislikes, your dreams and desires, your values and beliefs. All of these become secondary to the needs and expectations of those around you. Over time, you become a mirror, reflecting back what others want to see, rather than a window into your true self. This loss of identity is not just a personal tragedy, it's a philosophical one. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, argued that our freedom lies in our ability to choose, to define ourselves through our actions and decisions. But when you are too nice, you surrender this freedom. You allow others to define you, to dictate your choices, and to shape your life. And in doing so, you lose the very essence of what it means to be human, the ability to be yourself. Another unseen consequence of being too nice is the erosion of your boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being. They are the foundation of healthy relationships and a balanced life. But when you are too nice, these boundaries become blurred, or worse, non-existent. You say yes to things you don't want to do, you tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable, you give and give even when you have nothing left to give. And while this might make you seem agreeable and easygoing, it comes at a cost. Without boundaries, you become vulnerable to exploitation. People begin to take advantage of your kindness, not out of malice, but because you've taught them that it's okay. You've shown them that your needs don't matter, your time isn't valuable, and that your feelings can be ignored. And here's the cruel irony. The more you give, the less people respect you. Psychologists call this the doormat effect. When you are too accommodating, too selfless, too nice, people start to see you as less competent, less capable, and less worthy of respect. They may like you, but they don't admire you. They may appreciate you, but they don't value you. And over time, this lack of respect begins to erode your self-esteem, leaving you feeling invisible and unimportant. But the consequences don't stop there. Being too nice also creates a cycle of resentment, a toxic loop that poisons your relationships and your sense of self. At first, you might not even notice it. You tell yourself that you're happy to help. You don't mind putting others first. But deep down, a part of you begins to feel used, unappreciated, and taken for granted. This resentment doesn't just affect how you feel about others, it affects how you feel about yourself. You start to question your worth, your choices, and your very identity. You wonder why you can't stand up for yourself, why you can't say no, why you can't break free from this cycle. And the more you resent yourself, the more you try to compensate by being even nicer, even more accommodating, and even more selfless. It's a vicious cycle, one that leaves you feeling trapped and powerless. The psychological toll of being too nice is profound, but it doesn't stop there. It also takes a significant toll on your physical health. Studies have shown that people who struggle to assert themselves are more likely to experience chronic stress, which can lead to a host of health problems, including high blood pressure, heart disease, and a weakened immune system. The constant pressure to please others, to meet their expectations, to suppress your own needs, it all adds up, leaving your body in a state of perpetual tension. And then there's the emotional toll. Anxiety, depression, burnout, these are all common consequences of being too nice. When you prioritize others at the expense of yourself, you create a disconnect between your inner world and your outer reality. This disconnect can lead to feelings of emptiness, hopelessness, and despair. You might find yourself lying awake at night wondering why you feel so unfulfilled, so lost, so alone. But the consequences of being too nice aren't just personal, they're also societal. When we prioritize niceness over authenticity, we create a culture of superficiality, a world where people are more concerned with being liked than with being real. This culture discourages honesty, stifles creativity, and perpetuates a cycle of conformity. It teaches us to value appearance over substance, compliance over courage, and comfort over growth. And perhaps most troubling of all, it enables systems of power and oppression. When we are too nice, we become complicit in the very systems that exploit us. We allow injustice to go unchallenged, abuse to go unchecked, and inequality to go unaddressed. We become passive participants in a world that thrives on our silence. So where does that leave us? What can we do in the face of these unseen consequences? The answer is not to abandon kindness, but to redefine it. True kindness is not about self-sacrifice, it's about self-respect. It's about setting boundaries, speaking your truth, and honoring your own needs. It's about being authentic even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means disappointing others. But before we can embrace this new definition of kindness, we must first confront the hidden forces that keep us trapped. We must examine the beliefs, fears, and societal norms that have shaped our understanding of what it means to be nice. And we must be willing to challenge these forces, to question everything we've been taught, to break free from the cycle of self-betrayal. The path forward is not easy, but it is necessary, because the cost of being too nice is far too high. It's a cost that we can no longer afford to pay. And as we move into the next stage of this journey, we will explore how to break free from this trap, how to reclaim our power, our identity, and our truth. The rebellion begins now. Are you ready? Imagine standing at a crossroads. On one path lies the life you've always known, a life of compliance, self-sacrifice, and quiet resentment. It's familiar, even comfortable in its predictability, but it's also suffocating, a slow erosion of your soul. On the other path lies something entirely different: freedom. The freedom to say no, to set boundaries, to live authentically. It's a path that feels uncertain, even terrifying, because it requires you to challenge everything you've been taught about what it means to be good. But it's also the only path that leads to true fulfillment. The rebellion begins here. It begins with a single radical act: reclaiming your right to exist as you are, without apology, without compromise, without the need to please everyone around you. This is not an easy rebellion. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to face discomfort. But it's also the most liberating thing you will ever do. Step 1. Redefine kindness. The first step in breaking free is to redefine what kindness means to you. For too long, you've equated kindness with self-sacrifice, with putting others' needs above your own. But true kindness is not about erasing yourself. It's about honoring yourself while also respecting others. It's about finding a balance between empathy and authenticity, between generosity and self-respect. Think of it this way: if you give and give until you have nothing left, what are you really offering? An empty shell? A hollow gesture? True kindness comes from a place of abundance, not depletion. It's the ability to give without losing yourself in the process. And that starts with setting boundaries. Step 2. Set boundaries without guilt. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges. They are the lines that define where you end and another person begins. They are the foundation of healthy relationships and a healthy sense of self. But for those who are too nice, setting boundaries can feel like an act of betrayal. You worry that you'll hurt someone's feelings, that you'll be seen as selfish or unkind. And so you stay silent, allowing others to cross lines that should never be crossed. But here's the truth: boundaries are not selfish. They are an act of self-respect, and when you set them, you teach others how to treat you. You show them that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. You show them that you are not a doormat, but a person with needs and limits. Start small. The next time someone asks you for something you don't want to do, pause, take a deep breath, and instead of automatically saying yes, try saying, "Let me think about it." This simple phrase gives you the space to consider your own needs before making a decision. And when you do say no, remember that you don't owe anyone an explanation. No is a complete sentence. Step 3. Embrace discomfort. Breaking free from the cycle of being too nice is not comfortable. It requires you to confront your fears, to challenge your beliefs, and to disappoint people who have come to rely on your compliance. But discomfort is not the enemy. It is a sign that you are growing, that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and into your power. Think of discomfort as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger you become. Start by practicing small acts of assertiveness. Speak up at a meeting. Express your opinion, even if it's unpopular. Ask for what you need, even if it feels awkward. Each time you do, you'll build confidence in your ability to stand up for yourself. Step 4. Reconnect with your authentic self. For years, you've been living according to other people's expectations. You've been wearing a mask, playing a role, suppressing your true self. But who are you beneath that mask? What do you want? What do you value? What brings you joy? Reconnecting with your authentic self is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. Start by asking yourself some simple but profound questions. What do I want? What do I need? What do I believe? Write down your answers. Reflect on them. And then start making choices that align with your truth. This process may feel uncomfortable at first, even selfish. But it's not selfish to prioritize your own well-being. In fact, it's the most selfless thing you can do, because when you are true to yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You create relationships that are based on mutual respect and authenticity, rather than obligation and pretense. Step 5. Challenge the narrative. The world has taught you that being nice is a virtue, that selflessness is the highest form of morality. But what if this narrative is flawed? What if it's a story designed to keep you small, compliant, and easy to control? What if the true measure of a person is not how much they give, but how authentically they live? Challenge this narrative. Question the beliefs that have been handed down to you. Read the works of thinkers who have dared to defy societal norms. Nietzsche, Jung, Sartre, Huxley, Frankl. Surround yourself with people who value authenticity over niceness, who encourage you to speak your truth, who celebrate your individuality. And most importantly, rewrite your own narrative. Create a new story for yourself, one that is not defined by the need to please others, but by the desire to live fully and authentically. A story in which you are the hero, not the supporting character. Step 6. Practice radical self-compassion. As you embark on this journey, you will make mistakes. You will falter. You will say yes when you should have said no. You will fall back into old patterns. And that's okay. Breaking free from the cycle of being too nice is not about perfection. It's about progress. Practice radical self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you so readily offer to others. Forgive yourself for your mistakes. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small. And remember that this journey is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are. This rebellion is not about rejecting kindness. It's about reclaiming it. It's about redefining what it means to be kind, to be strong, to be human. It's about breaking free from the chains of societal expectations and stepping into your own power. It's about living a life that is true, authentic, and unapologetically yours. And as you take these steps, you will begin to see the world in a new light. You will realize that the greatest act of kindness is not to others, but to yourself. You will discover that by honoring your own needs, you create space for deeper, more meaningful connections. And you will find that the freedom to be yourself is the most liberating gift of all. The rebellion has begun. The question is, are you ready to join it? Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not the kind that reflects your physical appearance, but one that reveals the essence of who you are. For the first time, you see yourself clearly, not as the person others expect you to be, not as the version of yourself that you've carefully curated to fit in, but as the raw, unfiltered truth of your being. And in that moment, you realize something profound. You were never meant to be nice. You were meant to be whole. This is the ultimate truth, the revelation that redefines everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. Being too nice is not a virtue. It's a distortion, a mask that hides your true self. It's a survival mechanism born out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as anything less than perfect. But the cost of this mask is far too great. It robs you of your authenticity, your power, and your freedom. And the only way to reclaim these things is to let that mask fall away. To understand this truth, we must first confront the illusion of niceness. Society has taught us that being nice is synonymous with being good, that selflessness is the highest form of morality. But this is a lie. Niceness is not goodness. It is not kindness. It is not love. It is a performance, a facade, a way of navigating a world that prioritizes harmony over honesty, compliance over courage, and appearance over substance. True goodness is not about pleasing others. It's about living in alignment with your values. True kindness is not about self-sacrifice. It's about empathy and mutual respect. And true love is not about erasing yourself for the sake of someone else. It's about showing up as your whole, authentic self and inviting others to do the same. When you are too nice, you are not being good, kind, or loving. You are being afraid. Afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of being seen for who you really are. And this fear keeps you trapped in a cycle of self-betrayal, a cycle that can only be broken by embracing the truth of your own worth. Here's the truth. You are enough. You are enough as you are, without the need to prove yourself, to please others, or to earn your place in the world. Your worth is not determined by how much you give, how much you sacrifice, or how well you meet the expectations of others. Your worth is inherent, unchanging, and undeniable. But this truth is not easy to accept. It requires you to let go of the stories you've been told about who you should be. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you've been taught to hide. The anger, the sadness, the desires, the dreams. It requires you to embrace your shadow, as Carl Jung would say, and to integrate it into your sense of self. It is not a process of becoming someone new. It's a process of remembering who you've always been. It's a return to your authentic self, the self that existed before the world told you to be nice, to be quiet, and to be small. And as you reconnect with this self, you will begin to see the world in a new way. The ultimate truth is not just about you. It's about the way you see the world. When you let go of the illusion of niceness, you begin to see through the illusions that shape our society. You see how the world rewards compliance and punishes authenticity. You see how systems of power thrive on your silence and submission. And you see how true change, true freedom, can only come from within. This is the radical shift, realizing that the world does not need you to be nice. It needs you to be real. It needs you to speak your truth, to set boundaries, to challenge the status quo. It needs you to show up as your whole, authentic self, because only then can you inspire others to do the same. This shift is not easy. It requires you to unlearn everything you've been taught about what it means to be good, to be kind, to be human. It requires you to embrace discomfort, to face rejection, and to stand firm in the face of criticism. But it is also the most liberating thing you will ever do. When you embrace your authenticity, you reclaim your power. You no longer live in fear of what others think of you, because you know that their opinions do not define your worth. You no longer feel the need to please everyone, because you understand that true connection comes from being real, not from being agreeable. And you no longer feel trapped by the expectations of others, because you have chosen to live by your own values. This is the power of authenticity, the freedom to be yourself, unapologetically and wholeheartedly. It is the freedom to say no without guilt, to speak your truth without fear, to live a life that is true to who you are. So as you stand at this crossroads, you have a choice to make. You can continue down the path of niceness, of compliance, of self-sacrifice, or you can choose the path of authenticity, of courage, of self-respect. The choice is yours, and it is not an easy one, but it is the most important choice you will ever make. Because the truth is, the world does not need more nice people. It needs more real people. People who are willing to speak up, to stand out, and to challenge the status quo. It needs people who are willing to be themselves, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when it means disappointing others. So what will you choose? Will you continue to wear the mask, to play the role, to live a life that is not truly yours? Or will you take the leap, embrace your authenticity, and step into the fullness of who you are? The answer lies within you. And as you take this step, remember, you are not alone. There is a world of people waiting to meet the real you, to connect with you on a deeper level, and to walk this path alongside of you. And as you embrace your truth, you will inspire others to do the same. This is the ultimate truth. You were never meant to be nice. You were meant to be whole. And the journey to wholeness begins now. Will you take the first step? I hope that some of these ideas will encourage you to start prioritizing your own needs and begin to set boundaries for yourself, something that I continue to work on every day. Thank you for watching.